I'm like, if I stand at the podium, can you see me at all? Probably not. It's all right. I'll poke my head out when I need to. So, well, thank you for having me this afternoon. It is a pleasure to be here today. And we're going to talk about stop saying sorry. So I was in this restaurant and I was having lunch with some friends of mine, and the restaurant was really crowded. There was a lot of stuff going on, and they looked like they might have been short-staffed. The servers were running around like chickens with their heads cut off. So as I'm sitting there, someone orders their food, and it was very specific, right? Like things that they wanted on there, things that they didn't want on there. So they order it, and we're going on about our daily life there at the restaurant. They get the meal. I think everything was wrong with that meal. So the server or the person says, I am so sorry, but this really isn't what I wanted. Can you please take it back and give me what I wanted? Server's like, fine, no prob, we got this. So go on about lunch, gets the meal back out to the person, and then I overhear them say, oh gosh, I'm sorry, like I'm allergic to that. Like whatever was on it was something they didn't want because they were allergic to it. So they said to the server, I'm so sorry, can I just have a menu and I'll order something else? Server's like, no prob, I got you. So they bring it back out. But in the meantime, I hear this clunking noise. Well, they dropped their fork. They saw a busboy who was clearing off a table, and they said, I'm so sorry I dropped my fork. They're like, no problem, I got you, bring another fork. So they get their meal, they get their fork. On the way out, they're continuing to apologize for everything that had happened. And you know what, ladies? I didn't need to apologize for all those things that happened to my meal because it wasn't my fault. But I felt bad, right? I felt like I was inconveniencing everybody. So I was like tripping over my sorries because I kept feeling like I was being a nuisance or was being a big pain in the tuchus. So I didn't need to do any of that. Well, I've spent my life being a people pleaser. And as I've gotten older, I've realized that you can't please everybody, but all I really wanted to do was to have people like me and to feel important. It's all I wanted in my life. I'm also an only child. Any other onlys in the room? Thank you. Yep, the only club. So I was used to being the center of attention. I was the only grandchild too, so it was like a double whammy. So I liked people telling me like I did a good job or I looked really good. So what I found was, as I got older, I was saying I'm sorry more and more and more. But I was saying I'm sorry because I wanted people to give me that validation back. I wanted them to say, oh, I'm so sorry, I messed up. Oh no, Kelly, you didn't mess up. You did a great job. You were the best at that anybody's ever been. But you know what, ladies? It doesn't work that way. It's not how it works at all. All I did was irritate people. And I showed a lack of confidence. Suddenly nobody wanted to be talking to me because all I was doing was saying I'm sorry. So I had to learn to stop doing it. And it took a while. But I want you to know, ladies, that I went through this so you don't have to. And I'm going to teach you how to stop saying I'm sorry. Sorry is not an entry into a sentence. It's not the way you start a conversation. The problem, ladies, is that when we constantly say, I'm sorry, we are devaluing ourselves. We are lessening our self-worth. We are showing a lack of confidence, and we don't even know we're doing it. But that's what's happening by constantly saying, I'm sorry. And people stop taking us seriously. So ladies, it is time to quit saying I'm sorry. We have become a sorry society. We are now serial sorry sayers. We say it all the time. We don't even know we're saying it. We are surrounded by sorry. There's 1,001 songs about sorry. I know, I Googled it. I Googled songs that have sorry in the title, so you don't have to. Once again, you're welcome. And there are several of them. Anyone ever heard Sorry by Justin Bieber? Got some Bieberites? I like it a lot. Chicago, one of my personal favorites, Hard to Say I'm Sorry. You 80s babes, you're singing it in your head right now. I know, can see you. My girl Taylor Swift, she has a song called You're Not Sorry, also featured in the show CSI. That'll help you at trivia night. You're welcome. Blake Shelton has a song, I'm Sorry. Elton John, who's like 175 now, he has a song that's called Sorry Seems to Be the Hardest Word. I would debate him on that. I think for women is the easiest word. And then Paramore rock group, they have a song called Feelin' Sorry. And then, so it's all around us, right? Have you seen those shirts or those stickers that say, I'm sorry for what I said when I was hangry. Like hangry is a whole emotion all of its own. Or sorry for what my face said when you were talking. I might or may not be guilty of that. One that became popular during COVID. Sorry, I was on mute. We've all heard that one. I don't think that's going away either. Or something that I have done personally is you're walking around shopping at the mall and you bump into something and you say, oh, I'm sorry. And you turn around, it's a mannequin or a cardboard cutout. Now I'm apologizing to freaking inanimate objects? Come on, Kelly, get your crap together. So we are constantly saying, I'm sorry. We don't even know we're saying it. I'm going to keep saying that over and over again because I want that to get stuck in your brain. Ladies, why is it that we feel the need to apologize? Why? Think about why you do it. We do it out of habit. That's probably the biggest one. We just have been doing it since we were young girls, or we've heard our mom say it, or our grandma say it, or other people in the workplace, and it's just become habit in our lives. We're pleasers, right? I talked about being a people pleaser. That's not a bad thing. We're women. It's okay to do it. You just don't need to apologize for it. We feel that we're wrong. I think sometimes as women, we devalue ourselves because we're apologizing for maybe being wrong when we're not wrong, but we automatically think that we're wrong. We fear punishment or retaliation. We feel like we're going to have wronged somebody and they're going to do something back to us. So we start a conversation with, I'm sorry. We want validation. I talked about that, right? Oh, I'm sorry I'm fat. I'm sorry I'm not smart. I'm sorry I can't drive a car. Because we want somebody to say, oh no, Kelly, you're tall and skinny. It'll be okay. I think that ship sailed a while ago. We feel like we're bothering people. So we're going to say I'm sorry as an entryway into whatever conversation we're having because we don't want to bother anybody. We don't want to ruffle anybody's feathers. We don't want to come across as rude. It goes back to like what Dr. Smith was talking about this morning, right? We don't want to be bitchy. We want to be sweet and kind. So we're going to use I'm sorry to start that conversation. So there was some work done by the Journal of Psychological Science. It's science, so it must be true. But they did a study and they discovered that women really do apologize more frequent than men. And I don't know how long it took them to do this study, but I'm pretty sure I could have told them that at the outset. But one of the things they discovered was that women have a lower threshold for what constitutes offensive behavior. So because we have that lower threshold, we start apologizing for maybe offending somebody or feeling like we're offensive. It's okay to feel like you maybe be the only one in the room that thinks that way. It's okay. You gotta own it, ladies. You don't need to apologize for it. We're literally surrounded by sorry. Sorry is freaking everywhere. Now, I want to tell you though, apologizing if you've done something wrong is a good thing. We've all been to those seminars, we've read those self-help books that tell you, oh, you should apologize for something specific and then tell them how to fix it and how to go on about it. That's what you want to do, right? I'm sorry that I messed up that assignment, but here's what I'm going to do to make sure it never happens again. Compulsive apologizing is a weakness, both professionally and personally. So we're doing it over and over and over and over and over and over again, and we don't even know we're doing it. So quit it. You deserve a sorry-free life, unless there is a legitimate reason for you to apologize. So we're going to spend the next few minutes talking about how you can stop and get off the sorry train. We're gonna park that thing in the station, and we're gonna walk our happy little butts right away from it. So, you need to first of all start off by realizing how many times you're saying it. You know, right? They always say like, well, the first step to getting help is to realize you have a problem. You know, hi, my name's Kelly, and I'm a serial sorry sayer. Okay, now what are you gonna do about it? So here's what I want you to do, ladies. When you leave here today, and for the rest of your adult, womanly life, start making a tick mark every time you use the word sorry. Now that's going to require you to go back and reread something you've written, which take it from me, ladies, you always want to go back and reread what you wrote, because we get a little emotionally charged. So you're going to go back, and you're going to read that. And you're going to look at how many times you said I'm sorry in your email, in your social media post, in your conversations. You're going to have an accountability partner, and you're going to tell them what you're trying to do, so that they're going to tell you, hey, you know, in the last 10 minutes you said I'm sorry like 25 times. Like, I'm just sick of it. So you're going to make those tick marks, and you're going to keep track of how many times you've said sorry. I learned this in my research for this. Google, the Gmail, has a plugin you can use that'll alert you whenever you're going to say sorry. Some of you are grabbing your phones right now because you want to see if it's true. I did not, full disclosure, I did not test this out. I do not have Gmail, but I did read multiple times that it works. So the other thing that you can do is you can search like sorry, and it'll tell you how many times you said sorry. So start keeping track of it. And that's something I had to do when I realized how much sorry I was really saying, for all of those reasons I talked about earlier. So we want to start apologizing why we're saying sorry. Ladies, I'm going to ask you a question. Why do you think we're apologizing? Why are we saying I'm sorry? What are the reasons for that? What are your feelings or emotions when you're saying I'm sorry? Anyone want to volunteer? It's okay if you don't. Seriously. Guilt. You feel guilty. Right? You feel guilty about something that you're going to have to say. You're going to have a crucial conversation, and you feel guilty. So you're going to start that conversation with, I'm sorry. What about you're nervous? Maybe that's a nervous tick, right? You're really nervous about going to ask for that raise. So you're going to start that conversation by saying, I am so sorry to take up your time, but I really wanted to talk to you about maybe potentially someday in the future, around the corner, we could talk about having a raise. That does not ooze confidence. It oozes something, ladies, but it ain't confidence. I'm here to tell you. Perfection. Brooke, you talked about earlier being a recovering perfectionist. I'm a perfectionist. I want to do it right every time. So because I feel the need to be perfect, and my husband will tell you, I'm way harder on myself than anyone could ever be on myself. So when I don't measure up to those standards that I've set for myself, now I'm going to say I'm sorry. And I really didn't need to say I'm sorry because those were my own standards, and I really wasn't imperfect. I really wasn't. I didn't have to be perfect. I was imperfect, and it was perfectly imperfect. But because I had these unrealistic standards, then I felt the need to apologize for not meeting those standards. We don't want to ruffle the feathers. I talked about this earlier. You know, the whole chicken, we're clucking in the hen house. We don't want to ruffle anybody's feathers. We're scared, right? We don't want to have those conversations. So instead of being confident and going in, we're going to say like, I'm so sorry. Don't, quit it. Quit starting a sentence with I'm sorry. You don't need to do it. Think about what it is. What are you actually trying to say? And then just say it. You don't need to say I'm sorry. You just need to say what you're going to say. Trust me, it's okay. Your words have meaning and your ideas have meaning. Now, we're going to talk about I just did like a whole turn. I don't know what I'm doing. One of the reasons why we say I'm sorry, pause for water, is because we have to say no. Kind of talked about this. If you were in the breakout that was in here earlier, you know, we talked about this a little bit. So when we have to say no, that's uncomfortable, right? So we start with I'm sorry. I'm really sorry, but. I'm so sorry I can't do this, but. Ladies, no is a full sentence. Say it with me. No is a full sentence. So we're going to practice here for a minute. I'm going to give you a chance to live that dream right now. So I come to you and I say, oh my gosh, I'm so excited that you guys allowed me to come here today. And what I want to do as a follow-up is I want to have a meeting with you guys every Tuesday. Every Tuesday at 10 o'clock we're going to get together. And we're going to talk about how you're doing with that. Does that sound like a great idea? Can we get that scheduled? And you say to me, no. Yes! Nice! Strong! Nice! No is a full sentence, and it's okay. And it's uncomfortable, right? You feel like you should have something coming. Just practice that. I promise you it'll get easier. But, and this is one thing that came up in the breakout that was in here earlier, was in order for you to be comfortable saying no, you need to set your priorities. You need to know what your priorities are. Ladies, my priorities are in this order. God and faith, family, my mental health, and work. Yes, work is number 4. If I don't have those other ducks in a row quacking away, number 4 is not going to happen. And it's sure not going to happen efficiently or effectively. So you got to know what your priorities are. And then you got to respect those priorities. It's not enough to just have them. You got to respect them. And then you got to set boundaries around those priorities. And then you got to respect those boundaries. We don't owe anyone or any place our lives. We don't have to say yes to everything. We don't. We got to set those priorities. We got to protect those. And in doing that, we're going to be able to stop apologizing for doing things that don't fit in there. You got to focus on what gives your life meaning and what makes you happy. And don't apologize for saying no. I'm pointing because it's important. Don't apologize for saying no to things that don't fit in that. We heard this earlier, so it must be important because I'm saying it again. If it is not a heck yes, it's a no. If somebody asks you to do something and you're like, oh my God, that's the greatest thing ever, I can't live without it, then it's probably a no. So I'm going to give you guys a little assignment here right now. I want you to take a few minutes, and I want you to think about your priorities. Now, some of you already have them stored in your noggin, but you need to write them down. So it's not just to have them. You got to write them down. So you write them down, then you put them everywhere. Put them on your computer, put them on your refrigerator, put them in your car, put them on your mirror, put them everywhere. So take a few minutes, think about what's important to you, and write down what your priorities are. Okay, you guys all got those? Now you know where your priorities are? Now you're going to rewrite those several times so you can put them in front of you so you always know what your priorities are. Because anytime somebody asks you to do something, It needs to fit within those priorities. And if it doesn't, what are you going to say? No. Well done. Seeping in. Sometimes we say yes to everything right away. I'm saying this because I'm guilty. So once again, I did it so you don't have to. So somebody sends me an email and they're like, hey, I really want you to come to this. Hey, let's do this. And I'm all excited, right? Because somebody wants me to be somewhere and that makes me feel good. So I say yes. And then I've said yes to so many things. Now I can't do anything in my priorities because I've said yes to all these other people and all these other things. So before you say yes, stop, take some time to consider whether or not that is something that fits with your priorities and the boundaries that you've set around those priorities. And it's okay to say, like, I want to have some time to think about it. Talk to your kids, talk to your spouse, whoever. Talk to your friends, your coworkers, whatever it is. Take some time. And then you don't feel like later you have to apologize because you can't do all this stuff, and then you have to say no. So if we never said yes to it in the first place, we don't have to say no to it later, right? Confucius say. So we're going to realize how many times we're saying I'm sorry. We're going to know that no is a full sentence. Now it's time to change our language. So what can we do instead of saying I'm sorry? Instead of starting a sentence with that. So it's not just enough to know we do it, we have to stop doing it, we have to change our behavior. So here are some things that you can say, or phrases that you can use. Use thank you instead of I'm sorry. It seems so easy, right, when somebody says it, but I was literally like, duh, I didn't think of it on my own. So instead of saying, I'm sorry for complaining, you say, thank you for listening. Oh. Instead of saying, I'm sorry for making that mistake, you say, thank you for catching that. It makes us vulnerable, right? It's not comfortable. I don't like somebody pointing out my mistakes, but I gotta be able to do that in order to stop apologizing for things. Instead of saying, sorry I was late, say, thank you for waiting. Who cares if they're mad? Just don't say I'm sorry. Sometimes, ladies, we feel sympathetic instead of empathetic. And the sympathy that we feel lends to saying I'm sorry. So when you are sympathetic towards someone, you're kind of taking on those feelings, right? And you're saying things like, I'm so sorry you're sick, I'm sorry you missed that meeting, I'm sorry this, because you're in that sympathetic mindset. If you're in an empathetic mindset, you understand how they feel, but you're not necessarily agreeing with it. So you use words like, I understand. The feel, felt, found theory, I think we've all kind of learned as women. But when you're in an empathetic mindset, then you're not saying I'm sorry. So think about, are you practicing empathy or are you practicing sympathy? And if you're more on the empathetic side, you're going to be less likely to say I'm sorry. Ladies, don't start a sentence with the following phrases. I'm sorry I was late. We say it a lot. We're running around, we're crazy. We got a lot on our plate, and that's okay. But don't apologize for being late. Oh, I'm sorry to bother you. Now you're just undermining whatever it is you're trying to do because you're apologizing. It doesn't sound confident, ladies. It doesn't sound confident at all. You need to stand up, stand strong. We're women, gosh darn it. I'm sorry, can I squeeze past you? Just say, excuse me, trying to get around you. Can you move your booty over here 5 inches? You know, stop apologizing for needing to get through. It's okay, you got places to be, you got things to do. Sorry I won't be able to make it. Once again, no, it's okay. No, I'm not able to make it. I have other plans. But thank you for asking. It also makes you sound, it increases your respect, right? Because you're respecting your priorities and your time by saying no. And believe it or not, people are going to respect you more that way than if you say yes to everything and then you can't do what you said yes to. That's just undermining everything you're trying to do. Oh, sorry, I have a question. Sorry, I have a question. No, I'm all meek, mild over here in the corner. I have a question. You don't have to be like, oh, I have a question. You can still be pleasant about it. I have a question. I'm not starting with I'm sorry. Sorry, I couldn't hear that. Can you repeat that, please? I'm just taking out the sorry, ladies. But it changes the whole context. So focus on the solution. We all make mistakes. It's gonna happen. It doesn't matter if you're a woman or a man or a dog or a cat or a bird or whatever it is. We all make mistakes. But instead of starting with, I'm sorry I messed up, say something like, I hear what you're saying, and I'm gonna work on that. It makes you seem more confident and more dedicated to the solution than just feeling bad because you screwed up. And this one's hard because it's admitting that you're not perfect. I would like to improve. Do you have any feedback? I'm going to be honest with you, that one's hard for me because I don't want you to tell me that I did wrong because it's just going to make me feel bad. And I'm going to be like, oh, I screwed it all up. My life's so horrible. Might as well just go in the street and get hit by a bus. Like, I'll take it to that level. I'm such a drama queen. So Nicole Williams is the author of a book called Girl on Top. And she identified something she called speech weakeners. And I'd never heard this, but this really resonated with me. They're things that we use as women. Say things like, I might be wrong, but. Or you use the word I feel instead of I know. I feel like that's not right. I know that's not right. Like, you're confident, you know it, own it. Or you do something where you raise your voice at the end of a sentence. It's called upspeak, but it makes us seem passive. So keep a listen for that kind of thing. When you're talking to your coworkers or your boss or your spouse or whoever it is, are you raising the tone of your voice at the end? Because it makes you seem passive. I'm not sure how everyone else feels about this, but I think, you know what, ladies, I don't care how everyone else feels about it. Well, I kind of do. But here's what I think, or here's what I see based on the information that we've presented. You're not going to start with those speech weakeners because you've already beat yourself down before you even open your mouth. Or you say something like, I'm no expert, but darn it, ladies, we are. We know our stuff. Be confident, own it. Don't start with saying I'm no expert, but. Ladies, it is time to be confident, and it is time to be intentional. Know your worth, and then add tax. And don't devalue your worth by saying, I'm sorry, or any other word that you use that we talked about today. We can be firm, and we can be fair without being apologetic. Protect those priorities and those boundaries that you set, and stuff your sorries in a sack. So we have some handouts coming around for you today, some takeaways. You're going to receive a sheet that has the word I'm sorry, and you're going to receive a sack. So I want you to cut up those sorries, and I want you to shove one of those in a sack every time you use it. So you can measure, if you're not using the tick mark, you're going to measure how many times you're using it. And then when you're reformed, then you pass it on to someone else. It's the gift that keeps on giving, it really is. And then I've also given you a handout of things that you could say instead of saying I'm sorry, just as a reminder. So put that where you think you're in the position to use I'm sorry the most. So I thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of your day today. Yes, we have some questions. I guess we have time for questions. Go for it, girl. Nicole Williams. Hi, Kirby. What's up, Buttercup?
I
Yes.
was just wondering,
Right, right, it is.
How do we overcome that?
So think about why you're saying no. Are you saying no because you're busy? No, I'm not able to do this because I have too much on my plate right now. Maybe it's just simply adding why you're not able to do it at that time. And that's because you're protecting your priorities and you're protecting your time. So think about the specific reason about why you're saying no. And you don't have to be like, no! I mean, you can be. You gotta be, but no, I'm just not able to do that right now for you. Or, no, not right now, but maybe we can revisit that sometime down the road. Any other questions, comments, emotional outburst? It's okay, we're all friends. It's all right. Yes?
Talk about from your recovery, right, from being a sorry singer. Could you talk about the changes that you noticed in your life as you're a professional demeanor?
Yes, so Circe asked about me being like a recovering sorry sayer and how getting over that, the changes that I have seen in my life. So because I've always been a perfectionist and I've always been very hard on myself, I always felt like I needed to apologize for everything, right? Because I just didn't think I measured up. So when I realized, first of all, how much I was doing it, and I was doing it a lot. I was doing it a lot in emails. I was doing it a lot with my husband. I was doing it a lot, and I didn't even know it. And it made me so bad when I found out. So first of all, I realized it. I took it out. And when I took it out, I realized that I didn't feel bad anymore. And I did feel more confident. And I really felt like I was the smartest person in the room. Or I really did have a voice. And people start listening to you more because they're not already tuned out by the fact that you're already putting yourself down. So it just really helped me feel more confident. And when you feel confident, you really start to accomplish more of your dreams and goals and really start to have more of those conversations or be able to say no. And that's something that I have done too, is I've learned to say no. If it's not something I'm interested in or something that makes me happy, I don't do it. I'm 54 years old. I don't have much time left. I'm going to spend it however the heck I want to. I say yes to things. I mean, you saw I'm involved in stuff, but I only have allowed this much time by cutting out I'm sorry and learning to say no. And if one of those things falls off, then I'll have the ability to take something else on. Does that answer your question? All right, yep. Yes?
So I'm curious because I find myself changing. I've become more able to say no.
Yes.
Or I am conscious of the not saying sorry. I did it this week in an email. Like it was, and then I'm like, no, I just made a mistake.
Yeah.
So when you just shared your age, but at what point did you start coming to this realization? Do you think it's a maturity thing?
I think it is to some extent, and I think I wish someone would have had this conversation with me earlier, because I think I could have gotten to this point sooner had I realized what I was doing to myself and the fact that I was using it. But to your point, yeah, I mean, honestly, it happens. You get older, you just get more comfortable with who you are, and sometimes you don't give a shit. My mother-in-law used to say that, I just don't give a shit. I'm sorry, God, please forgive me. I go to church on Sunday, I'll ask for forgiveness, I promise. But I think it's like, when we're younger, we're trying to prove ourselves, right? So when we're trying to prove ourselves, we're trying to climb that corporate ladder and be all things to all people, then we feel like we're falling short. And that's when the sorry comes in. So if you realize that when you're younger, then you're going to start to be more confident. And when you feel confident, you're going to portray that confidence to others. And it's just going to start that whole I'm okay with who I am cycle a little bit sooner. But if you're young, you'll get there. Trust me, we all do. There was someone else. Yes?
I feel like it was more you were saying sorry to men or to women and men together?
I was saying it for everything. I'm sorry I didn't get that done. I'm sorry I was late with that. I'm sorry I was mean to you, baby. I'm sorry I was, I'm sorry I didn't have dinner I didn't have dinner ready, which I would never have dinner ready. I don't cook. Like, it's not a thing with me. I'm apologizing to the cat, I'm sorry, Chili, Mommy let you down. Cat's looking at me like, you are crazy. Yeah, I was doing it all the time because I was trying to please everybody. Anything else? Yeah, oh, yep. Well, yep, okay, we'll start over here.
I guess in your journey to recovery, do you find it more difficult in a professional setting or a personal setting? Because I feel like setting boundaries at work is always because in a lot of nice corporate workplaces there is expectation of respect to a certain extent. But in a personal life or your family, that might not be what you get back to a no. You get guilted or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
So I guess I find it almost harder to do personally than in a workplace.
Well, you don't want to hurt the ones you love, right? You don't want to let them down, right? But that's where you got to have that open conversation with them, right? And so some of that is communication. If you communicate with them and you tell them, like, look, you're killing me, Smalls. Like, I can't do all of this. So if I'm saying no, it's because I legitimately can't do it. So is there someone else that can bake that pie? Seriously. Is there someone else that can run to Kroger? You know what I mean? So you got to have conversation. You got to have communication. And that's the same no matter what. You got to be able to be open and honest about it. Does that help? Okay. There were like 12 other hands. Yes? Mm-hmm. Right.
You don't want to hurt their feelings, but you also want to,
right.
You're killing the Smalls, you're like,
right.
It doesn't even mean anything.
Right. So I don't know what your relationship is with that person, but if someone came to me and was legitimately trying to help me, hey, do you realize how often you're saying that and what message you're sending? I know that's not the message you're trying to send. It's almost like that accountability partner we talked about earlier. Like if that person is open to that, that's how I would start that conversation. Mm-hmm. Yes.
When I find myself saying sorry, oftentimes it's not that I feel bad about it, but I want to reassure the person that I'm not upset, I'm not angry, like I'm not saying you did anything wrong, or more than likely there's been miscommunication, so you can come in like, oh sorry, could you please give me more information, sorry, I just need, can you show me one more time to help bridge that gap? And I've been with the replacement words, I struggle to find words that were oh, it's not an apology, this is more sorry being used as a phrase
right.
to show everything's fine.
Yeah.
And so are there the replacement options?
So honestly, in those examples you gave, you just need to take sorry out of the equation. Just stop. Just stop using it. Because really you're just using that as a buffer into the fact that you need someone to show you something again. Or you feel bad because you were on vacation and something got missed or whatever. Can you show me that again? I really want to make sure I do it right. So maybe it's something you tack on to the end that reassures the person why you're asking them to do it again, but you don't just stop. I guarantee you 95% of the time you don't need sorry. It's just a statement. Anything else? Yes?
How do you recommend dealing with the pushback when you stop saying sorry and the people around you are used to that or expect the mom in the room or the female in the room to always apologize for having their opinion or offering a different truth?
So that's where it comes back to, you gotta be confident in why you're saying no. Because if you're wishy-washy and you don't know why you're saying no, then that pushback is gonna, it's like the peer pressure, right? So I think you gotta show that confidence. And I'm just curious, anyone else in the room ever experienced that or have any other piece of advice that might help her for people that are constantly pushing back? Everyone's like, I don't know. But you got to be confident in it. You got to know why you're saying no or why you're saying I'm sorry. Because once you figure that out, then you're more confident in just saying I'm sorry or in not saying I'm sorry and saying no. Does that help you? And you just have to keep doing it, right? Like, you don't start, like, tomorrow I'm not going to say I want to lose weight and I'm going to lose 25 pounds. Like, I wish it happened that way. You know, I'm like a weeble here. But you just got to keep doing it. And then people realize, oh, hey, she's serious about that. Or she really, this is her lane. You know, find your lane, stay in your lane, bro. Yes. Yeah. Right. We're pleasers, right? We don't want to let them down. We don't want to let them down. But in saying yes to everything, we're letting everybody down. We're letting ourselves down. And then we're run down and we're crazy nuts, and then that just explodes all over everyone else. And then the next thing you know, you're throwing skillets at your husband in the kitchen. Like, it happens. Yes, Rachel. Yes. Yeah, Rachel said you're just really uncomfortable at first, so once you do it more, you get more comfortable. Does that help? I mean, no, but yes. I got you. Yes.
I feel like another piece of advice on that too, something I try to do is focus on the value of what I am doing, right? And then that gives me that reassurance of like, okay, if I say no to one thing, well, here's all the things that I do as well. And it just kind of makes me feel a little bit better about what you shut down the
Yeah, absolutely. If I say yes to this, then what can't I do because of that? So if I'm saying no to you, it's because I need to be able to be this person over here. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Kelly. That takes some practice. That takes some practice. That takes getting called into the manager's office a couple times to realizing that you crossed a line. I may or may not be speaking from experience. It really is just practice. Like, find yourself somebody that you can bounce off of that's a safe space for you, but that will be honest with you. And practice. If it's not comfortable with you or you feel like you might be too bitchy, you know, and sometimes that's in your head. You're not being bitchy, but you think you're being bitchy because you have to say no. So it's okay, like it's a soft no. You know what? No, I'm not able to do this because I'm choosing to spend that time with my family, or I'm choosing to do this for myself that day. All right. Good comments, good questions. Thank you, ladies.